Alright, boys and girls, I'm Daniel here at the Fire in the Hell 03 channel, and I have not done a movie review in a while, and I've kind of been holding back. Things have been a little crazy, so I don't want to get into that kind of stuff because I've got my own vlog that I'll getting into that stuff. Those vlogs will be released relatively soon, even though they're spaced out over some time. But before I self-promote any further, let's go into the movie that I did see that I am going to review. So I got a combination here, Joker and Loki shirt, because, yep, I went and I saw Suicide Squad. So I'm going to give it the big spoilers, because I'm probably going to say things that are spoiler. I'm not going to ruin the whole movie, but there are things that I'm going to talk about that are going to kind of come off as spoilery. So that being said, you now have a warning, and you're about to now find out what my opinion is of Suicide Squad. Now, most people know I was not a fan of Batman versus Superman. Like that, just Batman v Superman was too cluttered. There was too much going on, and I was not a fan. However, Suicide Squad has redeemed DC in a lot of ways, and one of which just happens to be the fact that this movie, it had a hint of fun along with the action aspect. It's not a perfect comic book movie. It's not a perfect movie. There are issues that I do have with the movie, and I'm going to get to that. But right now, I'm going to say I was actually happy to see this movie. I was impressed by what they did, and using the source material and the history that the comic book has had, definitely did give them plenty of stuff to go with. Now, I understand that because DC's going very dark and gritty, it ties in, and now, if you didn't know, there are cameos of other characters that are not listed in the people who you've seen in like all the trailers and stuff. So I'm not going to spoil that aspect, but I will say Viola Davis as Amanda Waller, very well cast. I'm hard pressed to really think of anyone else who could have played that part, except maybe the woman who voiced Amanda Waller on the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited cartoon series back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Now, that voice actress, I don't know her name off the top of my head, but phenomenal. Viola Davis did a great job as the character. She kept a strong sense of the essence of the character, but she didn't have that sense of connection that I had with like the older style of the character from the animated series. Now, that going forward, I'm going to talk about Deadshot. I know everyone wants me to talk about Harley, because we all love Harley, but I'll get there. I'll get there. Now, Will Smith would not have been my choice for Deadshot, and he did a good job. I'm not going to lie. I was actually impressed with the way he did things in the movie. I didn't really picture him as Floyd Lawton. Just something about him, it just didn't really flow with Floyd Lawton. Now, from that point, though, I will say that he did do an amazing job. The action that he took part in, and he did get you emotionally drawn in. So I guess maybe if he's working with children who aren't his children, it just tends to work better. Or maybe he just needed a break from movies for a while and come into this, which was definitely a change up from him playing the hero all the time to playing a villain. And this actually worked really well for what I would say for Will Smith. Now, I'm going to get to the Joker first, because, yeah, I could talk about Harley, but I want to talk about the Joker first, and I love the Joker. The Joker is absolutely one of my favorite villains in all of comic books, and that includes Marvel, DC, and like any other little independent stuff. Joker has been my all-time favorite villain from the first time I read the character. And even when it was Cesar Romero playing him, I still love the Joker. Jared Leto didn't do a horrible job with the Joker, but I definitely would not have cast him as the Joker his Joker definitely was a different take, but he wasn't really the Joker that I wanted. I always saw the Joker as being that very suave, charismatic individual, and he does pull off the charismatic, but at the same time, the psychotic aspect just, it wasn't in the same tone as what I would always see the Joker. And this Joker basically was a Joker that sat there, and you really said, it's like, okay, he's nuts, but he's kind of pushing things to a point where it's the relationship with him and Harley. If you know the characters, this is a guy who you can't really say he loves her, because he loves using people. Him and Harley's relationship is not the, oh, I love you, I want to be with you, and this is my girl. And that's how he portrayed it for this film, and I think that was a mistake. I feel like Harley would have been better suited with a little more of the abusive aspect of the Joker, because he was always more abusive to her. He got what he wanted from her, and she stuck around, and he enjoyed having her around, but she did get on his nerves, and he would smack her around. I mean, he's tried to shoot her on a rocket to get rid of her. He's done everything he can as an abusive relationship goes. And yeah, that's not the character that I saw of the Joker. So we're going to get into Harley now. And Margot Robbie did a great job. She looks the part of Harley. I'm not a big fan of the costume, and they did have that throwback of the classic costume and even the classic artwork of her in the suit and him in his tux, and it looked good, but it just, I wasn't feeling it. There's something about it that didn't work, so I could see why they went with the Daddy's Little Monster costume. I think maybe they would have been better going with more of a costume that would have been closer to like the Arkham games, because that really played very well, and that one was definitely an improvement, and that one's like a fan favorite next to the classic red and black jumpsuit. Now, my issue that I had with Margot Robbie was that I did notice that at a couple of times her accent started to kind of change up a little bit, and that to me kind of threw things off a little bit, but her portrayal was actually really good. I love the character. I was actually very happy to see her continue on as the character, and I definitely wouldn't mind seeing her in another movie. Hell, I wouldn't mind seeing a Joker Harley movie completely separate. Now, there are other members of the Suicide Squad. Captain Boomerang, he's a low-level Flash villain to begin with anyway. His costume, I kind of would have liked to have seen him more as like that captain's outfit, like if he was a pilot, and like instead of him just wearing a sweater that says Captain on it. But, you know, if they make it real-world setting, so I can't really complain. But, I mean, after seeing Deadpool, and he's full-on Deadpool costume, even with the eyes and everything, it's hard not to say we don't want to see our characters in their classic costumes. Now, yeah, he did alright. Captain Boomerang was just Captain Boomerang. He wasn't that special. I think the Captain Boomerang they use on the Flash and Arrow TV series, so much better. I can say the same thing for Deadshot, and I'm going to get to Killer Croc. Killer Croc, they couldn't figure out how big he was. Like, proportion size, there are scenes he's in prison, and he looks massive. And then you see him standing there with the team, and sometimes he looks like he's imposing, and then he shrinks down all of a sudden. And I would have thought, like, you would want him to be bigger, larger than life, because this is a guy who, he's like a giant human crocodile, like, and it just, he kind of fell short on expectations. I mean, the makeup didn't look that bad, but it was just the scale of him, and like sometimes he looked bigger and more over proportion than the others, and other times he looked small, and that's not really the kind of Killer Croc I would have liked to have seen. But still interesting to say the very least, and didn't think I was ever going to really see a good Killer Croc. And hey, you know what? Maybe Gotham will give us a good Killer Croc. Who knows? Gotham might do a better one. We'll find out. Now, to continue on, I mean, Katana looked amazing. I was happy to see Katana in there. I don't really know a lot about Katana. I don't really know a lot about Enchantress. Enchantress looked pretty cool. Very dark, very creepy character, but very cool. And yeah, I can't really complain. Rick Flag was pretty cool having him in there because he is a classic Suicide Squad character. I didn't really follow Rick Flag too much outside of like the Justice League animated series, and he really didn't do too much there to begin with. So yeah, but the movie itself was definitely a fun ride. It was leaps and bounds better than Batman v Superman. And if DC can keep this tone going, the Batman Justice League movie, anything that Zack Snyder is dealing with right now, if it stays in the tone of Suicide Squad, then DC is going to start doing so much better in these comic book movie wars. Now, there was a little problem I had with the pacing towards the end of the movie, because they go into the, and I'm not going to spoil the end, but there is like this slow motion sequence where I felt like they tried to go along with the music, and I felt like that was a little bit of a tonal mistake. I think if they would have kept it at a normal speed, and then when they got to focus on just one character, and I'm going to say it now because, well, frankly, it needs to be said, so I already gave a spoiler warning, so here's just an extra one. 3, 2, 1, Deadshot. If they would have just used the slow motion just at Deadshot, I think that would have worked leaps and bounds better than going slow motion for a longer period of time. If they would have only used it on Deadshot for one specific scene, and I think when you guys see it, you'll see what I'm talking about, or if you look back, you might agree with me on this one, that it would have been more impactful and more emotional. It would have really given you that grip of like, oh man, the tension, and you didn't really get that because they just kind of slow dragged everything out. I don't know what a lot of filmmakers are doing nowadays with slow motion. There's not really a need to make everything slow motion, but oh well, can't really say anything. I mean, the movie did its job, and this is probably the best DC movie to come out live action since, I'll say, the Nolan Batman movies. And the Nolan Batman movies are phenomenal. Like, they're a standalone set, but they're not the DC Cinematic Universe. So the DC Cinematic Universe so far, Suicide Squad seems to be a great one. And I mean, personally, I did love the animated Assault on Arkham movie that came out, and after you see Suicide Squad, you're probably going to want to see Batman Assault on Arkham, just so this way you could see more Suicide Squad stuff, because that was definitely it. And hey, go back and check out old episodes of like season, I think it was like 2 and 3 of Arrow, when we got like some Suicide Squad stuff going on there before they made them take it out because, hey, we're getting a movie. But I'm not going to get into the politics on the movie business and everything, but I definitely say that Suicide Squad is a recommend. I do recommend you see this. This is a movie that, you know what, it had so much fun in there, and there is like this one little thing that I feel like DC kind of threw a dig in at Marvel a little bit, and you may spot it, but it's like, because of how well Deadpool did, Captain Boomerang has this one little thing that it kind of made me think Deadpool. So I felt like that was kind of shots fired, even though that Deadpool is actually a Fox movie. Even though he's part of the Marvel Universe, it's still Fox Studios that put it out. It's kind of like shots fired. DC finally put out the big bang here of, all right, yes, we've got, okay, Man of Steel wasn't that good. It didn't have that wholesome feel for Superman, and there were a lot of issues and things that could have been changed. Batman v Superman, too muddled. The Ultimate Edition does help a little bit, but not by much. And then you go and you have Suicide Squad, which is the one that I say, if you're going to watch them, watch Suicide Squad. It definitely ties into the universe, because there are mentions of Superman and like the stuff with Batman v Superman. So you definitely should check this one out if you're a DC fan. This is your first really good DC movie in this new cinematic universe. We can keep our fingers crossed when it comes to Flash, Aquaman, Justice League, and Wonder Woman. I mean, Wonder Woman right now looks good as the period piece, so I'm hoping that one kind of can do really well, and I've got my fingers crossed for DC, because I do love Batman, and Joker is my favorite villain of all time. So I keep my fingers crossed for you guys, and I hope DC can do so much better and continue on this track. And this was the great point to say, you know what, DC, congratulations, you've now stepped into the realm. This is the formula. I think you need to stay close to this formula. There are some tweaks you can make, but that's mostly like editing and minor story stuff. But for the most part, the story worked out pretty well. There wasn't really a lot to complain about visually. There were certain things that you kind of sat there and you were like, okay, the special effects were actually really good, and they didn't overdo a lot of stuff, and that was something that I was very appreciative of, and this is a recommend. So I definitely recommend you guys check this out while it's in theaters. And you know what, who knows, if they come out with an R-rated version, or like something even like an unrated version on DVD, I definitely say get that one if it comes out, if they decide to do something like that. And stay through the credits. You don't have to stay through all the credits, but just the main credits. There is something there after it. I made sure I stayed for all of the credits just to always be on the safe side. But they do have a minor after credits thing, so it's midway through, not the full credits. So I'm Daniel at the Fire in the Hell 03 channel. I'm going to get back to doing more of these movie reviews. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. And this is a reaction right after seeing the movie, because I did just see it today, the first opening weekend of the movie. So I hope you guys check it out and support your comic book movies, because these guys are doing some great work out there. So that being said, I'm Daniel. Check out all my other stuff, and you can check out my unboxings and stuff. Unfortunately, I had a LootCrate unboxing that, just didn't record properly, and the file was destroyed. And unfortunately, can't unbox a box you've already opened. So if anything, guys, just keep staying tuned, and I appreciate all you guys sticking with this channel. And I look forward to giving you guys more reviews, and like I said, I'm going to be working on the format, so we're going to be getting to some really cool stuff down the line. So, with that being said, I'll see y'all next time. Take care, everybody.